Alrighty, folks, today is Sunday, the 24th, I think, of January. I have quite a few things to talk about today. I'll see if I can break it into some little segments so you don't have to go through the whole thing at one time. First on the list, I guess, is the Dutch immigration. For me, at any rate, that's the thing that is one of the big deals, besides Bloomberg deciding to run as an independent for president. Which is not going to happen. Anyway, the immigration thing is interesting to me, that in the Netherlands, which is like a country, a teeny country, has been inundated with Muslims and, quote, refugees, and the battle is still going on. And finally, there is a guy who should be named Trump, but his name is Wilders. The Dutch debate on asylum seekers has come to this: firebrand lawmaker Geert Wilders handing out self-defense sprays to women fearful of being afraid of Islamic testosterone bombs, as he calls them, in the wake of the New Year's Eve sexual assaults in Cologne, which is quite a ways away. Anyway, he was surrounded by bodyguards and police, and he handed out sprays, which I thought was one of the things that was interesting. These are sprays that are designed to deter somebody, but they're painted red. So if you don't deter them, at least you can find out who they are. I thought that was a great idea. It's interesting. Anyway, he got a rock star welcome from dozens of supporters, while others protested his visit, waving placards that said "Refugees are welcome, racism is not." Anyway, he is as adamant about as Trump is about, and they make the comparison here, as Trump is about the immigrants destroying the culture. And the Netherlands, Holland, whatever it is, has been relatively homogeneous for years, and suddenly they have a Muslim. I think they have a couple of Muslims in the parliament now. Well, you can imagine what's happening with the votes, and it turns out that he's calling for the same thing that Trump is: close the borders immediately and no more asylum seekers. We just can't afford them, and that's one of the keys, is affording them. And being some of those countries over there are a little more socialist than we are, hard to believe. But when the refugees and the asylum seekers come in, they go on the dole, and that's taxpayer money. They already have high taxes, I'm sure, because they have single payer health care and that sort of thing. But the point is that these guys, they're essentially overrunning the country far more than here. Here, they're screaming about 30,000 people coming in, or even 100,000 out of 320 million in this country. I don't know what the population of the Netherlands is, but I'll guarantee it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 million. And when you get 100 or 200,000 of that coming into there, it can make a difference. Certainly in local communities, and this is in a little dorky place called, I can't even pronounce the name, it's a Dutch name. Anyway, the current prime minister, or the leader of the party, of the opposition party, he has ruled out cooperating with Wilders. Remember, he's the bomb thrower, kind of Trump-like person, unless the Freedom Party, which is the name of the Wilders party, takes back comments made in 2014 that he would like to see that there are fewer Moroccans in the Netherlands. This is what's interesting. Those same comments also landed Wilders in trouble with the Dutch prosecutors, who plan to put him on trial on charges of discrimination. Now, here's a guy. These are hate words. This is they talk about this. That kind of criticism is not new to Wilders, who has made his name with inflammatory anti-Islam rhetoric. He was acquitted in 2011 on hate speech charges for comments including likening Islam to fascism and calling for a ban on the Quran. This is stunning. If this is what we come to, is that, and of course they don't have a First Amendment free speech thing over there, I'm sure, but of course ours is eroding too, because we now have hate speech, and sometimes even what amounts to in this country is political speech is being shut down, as it was here during the last Spring Arts Festival, when people were in there campaigning for a ballot initiative. That's political. And the police, instead of defending this fellow's right to the First Amendment right to free speech, the police escorted him at gunpoint, essentially. I mean, he didn't have the gun out, but basically he's armed, and he told the guy to leave. Well, what are you going to do? You have to. So anyway, the point is they don't have, as far as I know, a First Amendment right. So they can charge people if they deem what a person says hate speech, and I guess you can go to jail for that. But one of the things that I do find out interesting is that as the economy in the Netherlands has started to tank for reasons somewhat beyond their control because they're part of the euro, the government has slashed. This is one thing that they've done. Not in this country, mind you. This is the big difference. The government has slashed spending and driven through an austerity package that revived the ailing Dutch economy and is beginning to cut in unemployment. The number of Dutch workers, blah, 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 is down. And so the point here being, what amazes me about this is the big difference in this country between the 1920 Depression, after the war, after World War I, which was over in 18 months. Why? Because the government slashed spending like in half and did nothing. Basically did nothing to, quote, encourage growth or anything like that. They slashed taxes and spending. And the economy and the complete recovery was all over in 18 months. Nobody heard a word. And at the time, they were saying that it was the worst depression since, I don't know, 1883 or something, whenever the big railroad bust, 1873. So the point is that if you slash spending and slash taxes, the recovery is automatic. Of course, they don't do that here. They don't slash any spending, and they feel like what they have to do is to raise taxes, as they did in this country. On January 1st, I don't have the list in front of me. However, the taxes, whether you know it or not, as part of the Affordable Health Care Plan, which was passed in, 2009, a lot of the implementations of the ACA were delayed in order to get it kind of solidified under the skin, and then these new taxes suddenly this year, January 1st, 24 days ago or whatever, exploded onto the frontier, onto the taxpayers. And so the point is that it's going to be like impossible to reverse those taxes. They are the ones that are supposed to pay for the Affordable Care Act. And there were monumental, huge increases in some of the taxes. Well, for instance, the estate tax went from 0 to 55%. Now, that's not totally 55. I think you have an exemption. It might be of a couple of $1 million. If you have an estate of a couple of $1 million, but that still doesn't hurt you, doesn't help you if you have maybe a 3,600 acre farm, for instance, and you die and you leave it to your kids, and it's worth, $10 million. Well, guess what? You get the first 2 or 3 million free, but then the rest of it is taxed at over half. And you could obviously lose the farm. This is what's happened in years past. They used to have the death tax in England, and that's why many of the estates had to be sold off, and they're now owned by the government, essentially. That's what they do as their tourist attractions. Anyway, the point is that that in this country, if they think that they're going to get out of it, they would have to, the current situation, they would have to do something along the same lines. I'm surprised that they did it in the Netherlands. There's more to say on that. Anyway, Wilder's opponents, the same thing as with Trump. Wilder's opponents are hoping that popular opinion shifts before the national vote, which is a year away. But even if they win, apparently their parliament is like 120 people, and they're projecting he might pick up 38. In the Netherlands, it's a parliamentary, that's different from this country, where you have to form coalition governments. There are, a half a dozen parties. And what you have to do is, in order to get a prime minister, you have to coalesce 3 or 4 of the different parties and then get to elect the prime minister. Well, of course, the problem is if a bunch of the people in one of the parties decides that it's not going along, they'll call for a vote on whether the prime minister should still be there. And if he fails, then they have to call election right away. So anyway, that is interesting to me that this little country the size of, New Jersey, has gone into Trumpism as far as I'm concerned, and apparently they are starting to realize that there is a real culture change when you allow people, and you can go all over YouTube and see this stuff, and all over Facebook and all over the various, what's the other one? Not Facebook, but Yahoo. And you can see the pictures, literally, of people in this country holding up signs, "We will take you over, the caliphate is coming, get out of the way, you're doomed to die." And I don't think that's a real good idea. So that's the rant for right now.